Good morning, welcome to Diamond Talks with Anthony. Today we're going to have a conversation. For those that are new to the channel, we make mental health conversation content that's going to be beneficial to your personal development in addition to your well-being, right? In today's conversation, we'll be talking about what triggers actually teaches us about unmet needs, right? So many people see their emotional triggers as something to fix or something to avoid, right? But I really want us to take into consideration because when people are able to identify triggers, right, some of us may not realize it, but some people project on that and they try to put you in a position where they're able to compromise you, whether they're trying to control you, trying to get a rise out of you by your emotions, right? They want to see you kind of get a, you know what I mean? Like, I really want us to understand that, to have that kind of perception so able to navigate throughout this life. You're not the only one that's going through this, right? But I really want us to understand about what triggers actually teach us about ourselves, where we need to kind of have that, you know what I mean, that self-rapport, that self-dialogue to understand how we're able to improve, right? So I want to be able to normalize the experience. So everyone has emotional triggers, right? Being triggered doesn't mean that you're weak, doesn't mean that you're too sensitive, right? Triggers often, like I said, are, derived from stress. It could be a conflict, it could be rejection, it could be an experience that, is teaching us something from past pain, right? So everybody's situation is going to be different. But like I said, I really want us to learn from what is getting a rise or what is making us feel uncomfortable or what's making us feel angry, like what's really going on, right? So it's not a personal failure. It's just information that, like I said, we got to be able to kind of read that rapport and build that rapport with our mind and our body, right? Some of us, like I said, are moving fast, constantly getting information, constantly on our phones, constantly around people, right? All this energy, right? But we got to be able to, like I said, detach and kind of give ourselves the time to be able to have that self-care, that solitude, and build this, like I said, that self-rapport, right? Because you really want to understand what's going on with your mood, what's going on with your emotions, what's going on with the stress, right? Because like I said, sometimes that stress can just come in the body. You're looking at your shoulder blades and stuff like that and different aspects of your body and just like the tensity, it's tense, you know what I mean? So I just really want us to understand that we have to build this rapport, understand, like I said, that connection with the mind and body, and taking these triggers not as a personal failure, but as information, right? When it comes to psychoeducation, triggers are emotional and psychological responses that can be connected to past experiences, right? Current stress and unmet needs, right? That's why it's really important to, like I said, get away from the limelight, get away from the distractions, and really understand what's going on with you. What can you do to improve your situation? Do I need to kind of stop popping out to the venues and to the parties, hanging around with the people? Do I got to put up some boundaries? Do I got to put up some cancellations so I'm able to take care of myself, right? So we really have to build this rapport with ourselves once again, right? So this also involves activating the nervous system before you can able to think thoroughly what's really going on. Like I said, when you're triggered, sometimes you just are impulsive and you just act upon, or you just say something just to say something, right? Words cause what? Damage. So we got to realize, like, the power of the tongue, So we got to realize the way that we're talking to ourselves, right? In a real way, right? How we sabotage and how we ruminate on, like I said, thinking about those past experiences, or we're even just allowing someone else to be in that situation where they're in the driver's seat and they're controlling us by our triggers, right? We need to be able to have emotional regulation. Right? We got to be able to think before we respond, right? Keep ourselves calm, keep ourselves neutral, right? Like, once again, don't let someone trick you outside your position, right? 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds can put you in a situation where you're scratching your head and you're like, wow, only if I, in a real way. So I really want us to understand, like I said, don't let someone trick you outside your position. Emotionally kind of get yourself grounded. That's why it's important to build this rapport with yourself. Understand how you feel. When you're stressed, right? What are you going to do to cope through the stress? You know what I mean? It's not gonna just go away if you don't take care of it. You know what I mean? So we have to be more vigilant to these, these signs. When it comes to, control, when it comes to that trigger, like I said, everybody's response is gonna be different. But I think it's something that, like I said, we have to be able to understand and develop some information about what's revealing. You know what I mean? When this trigger is coming out of us, right? Everybody's body response is going to be different. Everybody's past experiences is going to be different. Everybody's unmet needs is going to be different. Stress level is going to be different. And only you know your capacity. So we really have to be able to, like I said, have a positive reframe and, positive self-talk, really get the support if we need, really advocate for ourselves, right? You need help, let somebody know, right? But really, like I said, look yourself in the mirror and let yourself know, like, yo, we gonna get through this, like, I can improve at any given time. I just gotta, give myself that self-compassion and gradually, like I said, identify what these triggers are, and and then you'll be able to navigate through your life with that sense of direction. But like I said, I think it's really important for us to have this self-rapport because we have to build this with ourselves, you know what I mean? Once again, I just don't want you to be in a situation where it's just like, you're always tense, you're always looking left and right. Don't get it twisted. You can be hyper vigilant. You can, always know what's going on around you, but you don't want that stress upon you, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? So really take this serious. Moving in regards to practical reframing, in regards to how we're able to respond with more curiosity, right? So replace, like I said, the judgment, that negative, self-sabotage, negative words, right? And move towards that curiosity. Like, what is this information giving me? Why am I feeling this way? What's going on? What did someone just say that made me just, you know what I mean? My chest is getting tight. Like what's, you know what I mean? Like what's been building up? What's really going on? Right? So really build that curiosity, understand what's going on, you know what I mean? And explore your needs, right? Next is gonna be able to explore what's underneath those emotional reactions, right? So before you pop off, before you just get into that, you know what I mean? Your impulses, really explore what's underneath that emotion. What's going on? Like I said, once again, think before we respond. Take a deep breath, you know what I mean? Get yourself stable, you know what I mean? Look at that person and realize like, yo, you ain't finna do it, you feel me? You ain't finna compromise me. It's not gonna happen. I can control myself, you feel me? Don't let anybody's words, anybody's reactivity, whatever they gotta say, you know what I mean, trick you in your mind, right? That's why it's really important. Like I said, this is mental health. This is what we do, right? We got to be able to take care of ourselves with this encouragement, with this positive mindset, in addition to that support. You know what I mean? We do need that support. That's why we're here. That's why we're trying to get the information. Next is going to be in regards to not every trigger requires immediate reaction. Like I said, we got to be in control, right? But every trigger also gives us the opportunity to, like I said, get that greater self-awareness, right? People in life are going to behave the way they're going to behave. People are going to say what they're going to say. Everybody's going to have their own perception, right? Everybody has their own culture, where they come from. Everybody is, in regards to their family dynamic, was raised how they were raised, right? We can't control what people. We only can control what ourselves. So with that being said, like I said, let's utilize this information. Let's get the awareness. Let's understand. Let's be more intuitive with ourselves, right? Let's detach from the negativity, right? And gain more positivity, so we're able to navigate with a positive mindset, right, through these situations, right? And in regards to these triggers, right, everybody has them, but let's learn through it so we can improve. And before you know it, what happens when that someone says something to you, or a trigger comes later down when you already kind of fulfilled that yourself, it ain't gonna really mean too much to you. You're still able to go on. Even too, if someone was able to say something to you, they ain't got, holds no weight, right? Because you built that tolerance, you built that, you know what I mean, sense of self. You know yourself, right? You understand the triggers, you know the awareness, right? And nothing can really, you feel me, trick you outside your position. So I really want us to understand, we got to be able to identify what's going on by being more intuitive with ourselves, right? So it's not about running away. It's not about avoiding it. It's not about, you know what I mean? I don't want to be accountable. I don't want to be accountable. I just want to pop off, right? I don't want you to, like I said, be in a compromised position where you scratch your head and you're like, only if I knew, only if I, you know what I mean? Took that deep breath, or et cetera, right? So I really want you, like I said, take a deep breath. Recognize that everybody else is going through this, but let's worry about what's on our plate and identify with that self-awareness. Moving in regards to, like I said, micro action, because you know better, you tend to do better. So think of a recent situation where you felt triggered or emotionally just like, distressed, like, what's going on? Right? Once again, pause, think before we respond to the situation, react to the situation, right? And then ask yourself, right? What emotion am I experiencing right now? What might be underneath what I'm feeling right now? And then what is one healthy way I'm able to respond right now, right? We got to realize, like I said, for those out there that come from dysfunctional homes, right, we're prone to just, you know what I mean, give that chaotic reaction. We've seen chaotic reaction. That's what we know. You know what I mean? It's in us. You feel me? This is who I am. Da, 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 da. That's the mindset some people have out there. But I really want us to understand, look within, have the awareness, understand that you're able to improve, and understand that unhealthy patterns is not going to serve you. It's like, what do they say? Adding gas to the fire only going to, you feel me? Make it more, you feel me? You're not helping the situation. So I really want us to understand, let's really kind of have a positive reaction. Let's have more self-awareness. Let's have more emotional regulation, right? Let's keep ourselves calm. Let's think before we respond, right? And let's think about a healthy way we are able to respond towards these situations, so we're able to improve, so we can get to that stage where when these triggers and these things come our way, right? It ain't, you feel me? It ain't doing too much to us. You know what I mean? It's almost like a candle. Remember the fire we're talking about? You blow it out. You feel me? It ain't nobody, you feel me? Come on now. So like I said, that awareness is able to create that space where you're able to, like I said, navigate for that room of growth, right? We don't want to be stagnant. We don't want to just keep letting things distress us and keep having us get tense. And you feel me? We keep getting angry and angry. What does anger do? Anger builds up a lot of, you feel me? Them doctors know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? It builds up a lot of stress in the body. You know what I mean? In regards to that cortisol. So I really want us to understand, like, yo, like we can relieve this by, you know what I mean, having a neutral response, by being calm and moving in a more healthier way. In regards to coming to a close, right, triggers are not something to be ashamed. Triggers is not, like I said, a weakness. It's not you're a bad person, right? We all have this. This is an opportunity for us to, like I said, build better understanding with yourself. So like I said, let's develop some more intentionality. Let's be more intuitive. Let's understand, like, what's going on with our emotions, what's going on with our mood, what's making me feel irritable, right? And let's really, like I said, do the inner work so we're able to make the corrections to improve in our life as we're moving towards a better, greater, destination and direction. If you found this video beneficial, give it a thumbs up, share it possible. I'll see you in the next one.